All right, looks like we're live. And hello. So you're going to want to listen to this for a sec because this is a bit different and special to me. So obviously I haven't been here for a few weeks and you guys saw a 5-minute video of me. This is a QA session, so I am here doing a QA with everybody. But the reason I was gone was because my dad did pass away, and that was a very difficult time for me. But something kind of cool ended up happening as a result of that, which, you know, I'm still grieving. I'm still going through it. I'm trying to keep my mind off of that type of stuff. I went up to Boston where he lived and, you know, was there for him during the end of COVID, and he was on a ventilator for 16 days. It was incredibly difficult. And then he passed, and I went through the whole funeral process and all that stuff, which is why I was MIA, like I said, for a bit. And I know you guys can understand that for sure. And I had the task of taking his car, after he passed away, down to Florida to transfer it into my name. And so I'm sort of on that journey. And on the way, now Pop's Poker in Richmond, Virginia, where I am right now, is a poker room that I've been doing consulting with for a while, which is something that I do. I help rooms open. And I'm sort of selective about who I'm willing to do this type of consulting work with. And these guys are really amazing. They opened their poker room for the first time this past Thursday. And on Tuesday, I knew that I had video auditions that I do to help them get dealers. And so I actually showed up. And this has been an amazing thing to take my mind off of everything. And I'm truly appreciative to Pop's Poker for just everything that they do for me and with me. And so I just showed up, and they're used to having me on this table right here doing the auditions with this TV that you can sort of see. And instead of showing up on that TV screen, I just showed up in person, did the auditions with them, and then they asked me to help them open. So I did. I was here, and I helped them open their poker room, and it was a really great first 4 days. Because they're new to this, they decided to just open Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday of last week, and now they're closed Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then they're going to reopen again Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I'm not sticking around this time around. But I got to say, first of all, with everything that's happened with me in the last month, my dad passing away, coming to a place called Pop's Poker is a really cool, weird coincidence. I haven't even mentioned this to these guys, how that sort of sat with me, and I was able to feel connected to my dad who just passed away as a result of that. But I tell you what, I've done a lot of Zoom meetings with the owners and Rich, the director, who some of you have seen. I interviewed him when he was building a poker room from scratch. It's the video that I did. It was an interview with Rich, the director of poker here, opening a poker room from scratch, and we're going to do the follow-up to that at some point soon. But he's got to get a few more months under his belt of having actually been running this poker room. And this isn't the whole thing, you know, there's also tables over there, and they have the ability to expand and all that stuff. But, you know, I gotta say, I'd never met any of them in person, and all of them, the first moment I stepped foot in here and in the discussions for me to stick around after, have completely treated me like family, which for those of you who work in the industry, creating that type of vibe with people is almost impossible. And so I just want to say thank you to Pop's Poker. It's been incredibly special to me to receive that. And I got to say, you know, getting through a hard time with something like that, being there for me has been really, really meaningful to me. And I'm super appreciative. And now I'm going to be traveling back down to Florida, spend a little bit of time with my kids. But this is my last little stop, this live stream in their room right before I go back down to Florida. So, and then eventually I'll be going back to Texas and all that stuff. I haven't given up on Texas Card House. You'll see me there again in the future. But it's really cool having people that really make you feel like family. And a bunch of I think they got 2-5, 1-3 no limit, 1-2 no limit here over those days. Well, they did. I was here for it. And people seem to really like playing here. So, you know, I'm giving a shout out to Pop's Poker. What's the logo look like? Or where's the right? You can see it over there, right? Yeah, it's upside down. Pop's Poker. And this is in Richmond, Virginia. And look, I got nothing but good things to say about them. They're on a great path. They're learning and growing. And for me, I stopped by and it was a great experience. And Two Doves Nation says, sorry to hear about your loss. I appreciate that. I know stuff like this is uncomfortable, a little bit hard to talk about sometimes. My dad, he had cancer, hematological cancer. He had a lymphoma, that specifically, and he had gone through chemo, and he had successfully completed chemo back in February. His doctors did blood work on tests on him, and everybody thought he was going to be fine. He got the Pfizer vaccine a couple months later, and he was really excited to be out in the world. And then, ultimately he ended up getting Delta. And after he got it, about 2 weeks later, was when everybody in the news started saying that people who were in his situation were the ones who ended up being immunocompromised. He didn't think he was immunocompromised, and unfortunately, he didn't make it. And I'm going to exit talking about that so I don't get emotional. But look, I am here right now. I've been gone for a bit. I'm here right now to answer your questions. So anything that you guys want to know, I know I've been gone for a bit, but I will even ask you, help me take my mind off of my own life by asking me questions so that you guys can learn what you want to learn about poker, the industry, working in the industry, dealing, passing auditions, and all this type of stuff. And actually, I can start this off a little bit by reading a couple of cool comments that I've seen recently on my YouTube channel. Normally, I'm really good about responding to everything. I haven't had a chance to do that lately, but I've got this right here. Let's see. So, where is this? So there's somebody on YouTube that said, I have a test to start a new dealer job tomorrow. Any last minute tips for me? So I responded. I think I responded too late for them to actually get my feedback. But the typical stuff I say to somebody when they're brand new and they're trying to pass an audition is make it feel like poker. When I was doing auditions here at Pops Poker on this past Tuesday last week, I sort of showed up at 6 o'clock and we had scheduled auditions that I had to do. I was straight out of the car from Massachusetts, by the way, so it was quite the day. But the first thing that I said to them all was, make it feel like poker, okay? You're sitting in that box, you're sitting there, you're ready to audition, you feel the nerves, you feel all that stuff. But what you also feel is your habits. So if you've been in a dealer class and you've been in a dealer school, those habits are, if you have a question, just ask the instructor. These aren't real chips, it's just pretend. All that stuff, you got to get rid of it in an audition. You focus in and you pretend every single chip on there is real money. Every single thing that happens is you're in a real game. The only thing that you don't worry about is going as fast as you possibly can, because speed comes with time and auditioners know that. But you do have to go fast enough for it to feel like poker, so there is that little dynamic. But that is what my general advice is. And then this individual was really excited, and they said that they passed. They start on September 27th, and they asked, so I'll ask you guys this. They were asked in an audition. So there's a lot of like dealing stuff that happens, but also you sometimes get quizzes, right? So the supervisors for the audition asked the person in the audition, how much would a 5% rake be on $235? And they said they froze. Usually super fast on mental calculations. They also said that they were asked to cut chips, a stack of 20, and they accidentally put 6 instead of 5. All right, so both of those things happened in this individual's audition, but they said they still passed. And why? Because as a person that's doing an audition, you're not necessarily just worried about whether or not the person is perfect. Like, you're not recording them in this type of an audition and deciding whether or not you're going to use this footage in your movie, or trying to picture it on that level. You're not seeing how their performance is exactly. You're basically evaluating, are they capable of doing this job? And one thing that's different about a poker dealer audition and like a audition for a role, when you're auditioning for a part in a show or movie, which I don't have any experience in this, but still this has to be true, you're picking one person for that role, maybe a backup, right, if it's a play, but generally it's one person for that role. As a poker dealer audition, you're picking lots of people to work as dealers in the room, and you're filling as many as you need. And so you don't need it to be perfect. You just need it to give you the confidence as a supervisor that the person that's in there is going to be able to do the job. And I will say this too, and this is something I sort of had to educate the staff at Pops Poker on, and they're unbelievably open and receptive to anything I have to say, which is really nice working with them. And also, I've had to teach a lot of people this over the years. When you are hiring dealers for the job in the room, and I want you guys to know this from the supervisor perspective, okay? When you're hiring a poker dealer in the room, one of the hardest things to do as a manager is to watch your dealers deal. So if you're trying to get a job as a poker dealer, it helps for you to understand that you have to be so good that they can trust you to do the job very well without being monitored. Yes, occasionally they're going to watch you, but there's so much to do as a poker supervisor and a poker manager that you don't have time to just stand there and make sure your dealers are doing what they're supposed to do. You get to it when you can. And so, in general, when you're auditioning a poker dealer, it has to feel like poker, and you have to feel comfortable that you can trust that they're going to represent the business properly, get enough hands out, but most importantly, do it correctly all the time without exception. That is ultimately what you're looking for as someone trying to do an auditions. And I'm hopeful, I hope that some of the staff that's here on this day off in between Pops being open, they're opening back up again on Thursday. They took Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off. I'm hoping that some of them jump back in and say hi, and we get to have some conversation. You get to hear from them about sort of what it's been like for them trying to open, and the types of situations that come up. Boy, it's like I was going strong with them this past Thursday through Sunday. I was in here in a suit from, I want to say 1:30, 1:45 in the afternoon until like 2 or 3 a.m. every single day. It's been pretty cool. Like, I've enjoyed it, but boy, am I tired. Two Doves says, what I need to know about dealing in the WSOP first time. So I'm not sure if you've passed the audition or not. Let's assume that you haven't real quick. The way that they audition is they give you about 4 hands, if I remember correctly. This might be slightly off, but this is right off of their information on the site. Plus, I've talked to people about it. And one hand is going to be no limit hold'em or limit hold'em. I think it's no limit hold'em. The next hand is going to be some version of a flop game that's a bit more complicated. It could be pot limit Omaha. It could be big O, high low, big O 8. It could be any of those types of games, but it will be a flop game. Then you're going to get a stud game. Then you're going to get a mixed game. And they just they pick one at random. So maybe, you'll spend all this time learning these, right? But maybe you'll just deal one hand of a doogie. Maybe you'll just deal one hand of ace to 5. So that's what the audition is. So you do really need to know those games really well. I do teach that in my bonus mixed games course. I teach every game that you need for the WSOP audition. I'm not affiliated with them in any way. However, I am familiar with their body of work and what they require. When you actually go there to work, so I have friends who have done this, and the conversation I've had with them was back in maybe like 5-6 years ago, but I imagine it's relatively similar. You basically show up for work, and you get to choose which section of dealing you want to be in. So you can, if you'd like, deal WSOP tournament events. You can, if you'd like, deal cash games. Or you can, if you'd like, deal their like little sit and go type tournaments. And from what I understand, you choose it in the sense that as long as everything is being properly filled, people can choose. Sometimes they do need specific people to go to specific sections of it. But I remember that, from what I remember, some of them you actually get to take cash home. Some of them they end up going on your check. And so that's sort of what the experience is. And then in terms of actually dealing, it's just a huge sea of poker with hundreds and hundreds of tables. And I'm considering going and checking it out this year just to see what the post-COVID version of the WSOP is. Because my dad passed away, I haven't really set any roots in my head for what my timing's going to be or what it is I'm going to be planning or doing. But That's pretty much what the WSOP is like. You know, you go in there, you pick which section you're going to be in, you stay in that section for the day, and then the next day you do it again, and then sometimes they'll assign you if they need to assign people in order to keep it balanced properly. Two Doves Nation says, I did pass about a week ago. Congratulations, that's really cool. CNF, good to see you again. Can't stick around, but just wanted to thank you for the guides. Managed to get a job despite no prior experience. That's excellent to hear, and it's really cool how many stories I end up hearing like yours, CNF, and big congratulations. I'm curious what job you have and where it is, and if you're willing to share any of that stuff. We always love to know, and pretty cool. By the way, they are hiring at Pops Poker out here. They need one supervisor. An experienced supervisor would be great out here. They also need dealers, experienced dealers, not experienced dealers. If you can pass an audition, you can come work here. I'm probably the one still doing the auditions. I've done a lot of their auditions up to this point. So if you don't mind auditioning in front of me, you could work at Pops Poker. I do a tough audition, though, for what it's worth. But, you know, I'm fair. And I also am willing to give feedback. One of the cool things about auditioning with me is it's usually recorded on video. You usually get to watch that video later. So there's that. And you can see what you did and see how you can improve and all that type of stuff. But it's interesting because they're open now, and so all of the people who have been handling, you know, auditions and stuff are a bit tied up. But yeah, I'm very curious to see how the WSOP is this year. And I mean, they were talking about mandatory vaccines and all this stuff, and I was seeing all this stuff on Facebook, and it's been blowing up in a political way. People aren't talking about it to share information. They're talking about it because they have all these like political stances or human stances or thought stances that they just like, they want to push other people to share their opinions and everything one way or another. It's too bad that the information is just not being spread as fact. This is what they decided to do. Instead, a lot of people are trying to either pressure them to change or pressure other people to conform, and it's this whole weird dynamic with vaccines and poker. I mean, I don't know. I'm certainly not going to go and start picking sides with an issue like this. I know that there's probably some people watching that want me to, but it's impossible to do this type of thing. One of the things that I've learned is there are always strong explanations that, well, actually, you know what? I don't even want to get into this. I haven't learned anything. Let's say that. Nick says the vax will ruin your 5G reception. I don't know what that means. I think he's talking about I have bad signal right now. Also, Nick says, hey, Mark. Hey, what's going on, Nick? It's good to see you out there. How is Germany treating you? Two Doves Nation says, we want to be travel poker dealer. Can we do pop for a few months? Sure. Yeah, I mean, so well, let's do this. I can go and grab them, and we can answer questions like that a bit later. They're in a meeting right now, so I don't want to like interrupt the meeting. I think it just started, but by the way, the dealers did pretty well here from what I saw. You know, the players were pretty generous. It's a new room, so it's going to be a little bit distorted in the beginning, right? The first maybe 6 to 18 months, the tips are usually pretty good in a new market, right? Not necessarily a new room, but a new market for sure. And Virginia is a brand new market. There's very little poker that's ever been out here that's been actual. It's interesting seeing a poker room in a place where there hasn't been poker before. Maryland experienced this recently. Texas experienced this recently. Back 12 years ago, Florida was experiencing it. And Virginia's experiencing it now. And there's certain patterns that happen in new markets. And one of them is people tip a lot more. It's you know, it's a new exciting thing. You win a pot, like you don't start evaluating anything other than what do I feel like doing, and the dealers are definitely appreciative of that out here. But yeah, I would say right now Pops Poker definitely needs dealers, and if you're gonna stick around for a few months or you're looking to be here long term, I mean, I don't see any issue with somebody coming and saying like, hey, I want to work here. Yeah, I would say reach out to here. I'm gonna put an email in the chat for you to send Rich at Pops. So Rich at popspoker.com. If you email that email address, you will get answers to any questions you want, and you will get information about possibly being able to work here. And again, I'm just here for a week. I came in, I helped them open for the very first time. I downloaded all of my poker knowledge onto them, and or the amount that I was able to in the short period of time I was here. And now I'm continuing on and going back to Texas, and I'll be at Texas Card House again pretty soon. I haven't been there much lately in the last 2 months. It's just life has taken me away from there, but I do miss you guys at Texas Card House in Dallas for sure. But yeah, I mean, Pop's Poker is definitely a fun stop for me, and it can be a fun stop for you too. There's great people here. There's truly, truly great people, and they are a new room, and they are learning and growing. But they're solution oriented, and the director, Rich, is phenomenal when it comes to being solution oriented and building and making things better and better. Managing information and all that stuff. It's really hard to run a poker room. I mean, I don't know if you guys know this, but it is really hard to run a poker room. Like, incredibly, incredibly detailed. I was trying to explain to them before we opened that we talked about this a second ago. I said it's really hard to watch your dealers because everything about managing and running the room has to be incredibly smooth and on point in order to be able to do it well. Here, let me bring this a little bit closer to me. Maybe this is better. So they try to ask me, well, what do you have to do? And I talked to Rich last night, the director here, and I said, okay, remember the conversation we had on Wednesday before you'd ever opened a room? And I was trying to tell you, it's really hard to watch your dealers as a supervisor or a manager because you just have so much going on. And he said to me, what else is there to, like, what do you really have to do? You just tell the dealers where to deal, and it's like, I couldn't explain it to him. I really couldn't. I tried to explain it to him. And so I asked him last night, all right, now it's later. We had this conversation on Wednesday. Like, what's your answer to that question now that you've done it for a few minutes? And he was like, well, for 4 days. And he was like, well, you're being pulled in a million different directions all the time. And, you have to resolve every single thing that you're being pulled toward. And then I asked him, okay, so let's pretend that I don't know what you're talking about. What are you being pulled toward? And he's like, I don't know everything. Like, a customer has a question. There's a problem with the computer. There's a question about how the tournament's going to go. There's imbalanced tables. There's all this stuff, and the supervisors have to smoothly know the answer to it, train the staff to be able to handle it, and all this stuff. So, but that being said, being the boss, being a poker supervisor is a pretty cool job. Joe, one of the supervisors here, seeing that smile on his face walking around the room by Sunday night, he was alone on the floor with the games, and I gave him some space to really just run it on his own. He's experienced with poker for sure, but not casino poker. He's done like bar leagues and stuff like that. But now he's learning casino poker, and that smile on his face was so satisfying to see. He just, like, these guys love being here, and that makes me really, really happy to see people that truly want to be here. So, yeah, 2Dubs Nation, reach out. Let me see. Maybe, I wonder if they would take dealers seasonally or something like that too. I don't know. I just don't know. But I know right now today, they definitely need dealers. They had enough staff to open 4 days a week. They don't have enough staff to be open 7 days a week. They want to be open 7 days a week as soon as they possibly can. Because, I mean, it's a poker room, right? Like, they had a soft opening. It's not a grand opening. It's been a soft opening. 4 days a week was fine for them. And yeah, but come on, give me some questions here. Make this a little bit easier on me so I don't have to just keep talking and talking and talking and talking. By the way, I would like to encourage you, if you have never actually commented or asked a question, I've had a lot of people that say that they feel silly. They're afraid that their question's going to be judged. They're afraid that their YouTube name is like Nick, where it's his actual first name, right? I mean, don't be shy. Come say hi to me, right? If you haven't ever said hi to me, say hi to me. I'll say hi back to you. I like knowing who's out there. I don't even care if my mom's watching right now. Hi, Mom. Say hi to me. She watches sometimes. I never know when she's watching. But I'm happy to be getting back to the real world, and I appreciate you guys very much, and I miss you guys. 2Dubs Nation says, how hard to dealer? So this is something I've never actually done myself, and if you're talking about dealing for a few months here and a few months here and a few months here, I don't think that's really done. I don't think there's really anything in poker for dealers to be 3 months in one location, 3 months in another location. Typically, the way that it works is you travel with the circuit that you're a part of, and these big tournament series, different poker rooms will have a tournament series, maybe twice a year, 3 times a year, 4 times a year. All right, maybe Pops will have a tournament series where they have lots of people come for really big buy-in tournaments, and they bring a bunch of people in, and it's a poker bonanza, right? There's tons of people playing in a tournament series. For that series, they get way more people coming from out of town for the $1 million guarantee and all that stuff. You get way more people than you typically have playing poker in your poker room. So your staff can't possibly work and do all of the work for the poker tables that you gain as a result of that. So that results in traveling poker dealers that are there, that go wherever these events are. And there's a different set of supervisors that run these events because they're high stakes poker tournaments, and it requires a very consistent and knowledgeable staff. So you can have an incredibly knowledgeable staff running a poker room, but that staff might not be knowledgeable and experienced with the high stakes tournaments with the $1 million guarantees, because you're not doing that on a regular basis. You don't know what those people are like and what they expect that are spending $10,000 to get into these tournaments, or spending $5,000 or $1,750 in order to get into these tournaments. So it's a different thing, and you have a different crew. And if you're a part of that, then you basically travel and you work 11 days straight or 14 days straight, or if it's the World Series, you might go 6 weeks in a row. And then you have some time off until the next one, and then you go travel to that location, and then you do it again. My understanding is it's not hard in the sense of like the work itself. It's just different, right? Like you're figuring out, hey, how can I live out here for a little bit? I got my home in whatever state I'm from or I live in. I'm traveling to this place. I got to pay my own expenses to get there. And then, is there a room for rent somewhere, or is there a cheap Airbnb, or, how can I afford to live here? But generally speaking, in those 11 days, you're going to make pretty good money, or in those 14 days, you're going to make pretty good money. And that's your goal. Your goal is to grind it out, get enough money in that period of time to be totally chill, take like 1 to 3 weeks off, and then do it again somewhere else. And the poker rooms around the country are coordinating with the ones who run these tournament series in order to set their schedule in advance, so you sort of know what you're doing. Recently, and I interviewed a friend of mine that I've worked with in the past, Luis, who runs these types of tournament series. Recently, a poker room in Ohio has opened, or I think 2 poker rooms in Ohio have opened, and they are treating the dealing pool like this. So there's one more stop that's a cash room that you can actually get whenever you need. Do you guys mind telling me, how's the reception coming through right now? Is this whole thing coming through smoothly, or am I cutting in and out a lot? Sometimes nobody tells me, and so I don't know, and I just want to know. And I gotta reduce this volume a little bit because it seems like it's too loud. All right. Jacob has a little emoji saying, hey, what's going on, Jacob? Appreciate you being here. Two Doves Nation says, how often do you see married couple dealing poker? Pretty often, actually. There's different schools of thought. Two Doves says reception is great, awesome. AWK says coming in clear, awesome. Appreciate you guys responding to that. I always get a little bit concerned. So how often do you see married couples dealing poker? It's a great question. A lot of the time, poker rooms are fine with it. It's not house's money that's at stake. In table games, you generally don't want, you don't want one person to be a floor and one person to be a dealer and have them be even living together in a lot of cases. But that's sort of overkill nowadays. Well, in poker, it's overkill. In table games, I take it back. I forgot what I was talking about for a second. Table games, it can be dangerous because it's house's money that can just disappear. But in poker, it's a lot harder to get money to disappear like that. So generally speaking, there's no real issue with it. The only issue that you can run into if you have a married couple working the same shift is all of the back and forth so there's different types of drama that can come up, and there's different types of favoritism that can come up. And my opinion is, in a poker room, you can totally manage that on an individual case by case basis, and just, you don't let people do things that are bad for the room. That's my opinion. I don't personally have any issue with a married couple working in the room together. I like the idea of both of them coming in together and leaving together, especially if they're both dealers. I'm a little bit less comfortable, honestly, having one of them be a supervisor and one of them be a dealer. But it's because what happens is the supervisor can push the spouse to go deal the games with the best tips or something like that. But even that, like, if people have integrity, it's fine and it's manageable. And so if it becomes a problem, it becomes a problem type of thing is sort of how I look at it. Two Dove says, my wife and I are poker dealers. Got it. So, I mean, yeah, look, two people together, poker dealers. One thing that's really funny about the casino industry, too, especially in poker, is, you go in and every hour and a half, we'll say, you get a 30-minute break. Or every 2 hours, you get a 30-minute break. Or sometimes every 30 minutes, you get a 30-minute break if it's the morning and things are slow. Well, what do you do on your break? Most of the time, you go and you interact with other people that work there that are also on break. I have seen, and there's other departments too. There's, food and beverage, which is the people that work in the kitchen, and then there's the waitresses. There's the slot attendants if you're at a full casino. There's the table games dealers, and all these different people. I have seen so many times when people that work together in either the poker room or other departments end up talking, getting to know each other, and they end up in relationships working together. Most of the time, that's where it all happens. And if you're in a room that is supportive of people choosing who their relationships are with freely and working in the room together, I think that that's a better thing for everybody personally, but it can be really hard to manage. And I can think of plenty of examples where it's been hard to manage. But those are HR issues. It's not necessarily like, should that be allowed issues. But I mean, you're talking about, the point I'm trying to make is, it's literally impossible to prevent people that work together as dealers from becoming involved with one another. So, I mean, the better you are equipped to handle stuff like that from a management standpoint, the better off you are, in my opinion. Because otherwise what happens is, if it's not allowed, then these become secret relationships. But the point I'm making is, they're still there one way or another. So if it's secret relationship or a public relationship, there's still relationships that are there. So, I mean, I would say just allow it and figure out what's okay and what's not okay within it. AWK says, I'm in South Florida and looking to audition in the upcoming couple months. Would you recommend I aim for a smaller casino, or should I shoot straight for the Hard Rock Hollywood? So I can see that you're a member, and thank you for joining True Poker Dealer on YouTube. I'm guessing, based on the conversation that you're having with me, that you have not actually dealt professionally in a poker room before. So D1 Key says, hey Mark, hey, what's going on? Good to see you back. AWK, I would say go right to Calder Casino and Racecourse. I used to work there. If you're new, if you haven't dealt before, go right to Calder Casino and Racecourse and get your reps in, okay? Ralph is running that room. I know him a little bit, but Mike and Scott are the supervisors there. I have worked with them a lot in the past. And I would say go there. They need good people, or at least they did a month ago when I last talked to them. And tell them that you learned through True Poker Dealer. And, Mike's I think he's been doing some of the hiring. And he's somebody that I talk to somewhat regularly, and he's a great guy. And I would say go for Calder and get your reps in as long as you can. And then once you've been a dealer for a little bit, that's when you want to try to go tackle the Hard Rock. The Hard Rock in Hollywood has the toughest audition I have ever seen. I worked there as a dealer for a few months in 2016 before I went full entrepreneur. And I did that audition. They did not give me any special treatment. They made me do their full audition. It was incredibly challenging compared to even the auditions that I do. Why? Because they spread all the games that they test you on, and they need their dealers to be able to hack it without question. Skylar is the one who does the auditions usually. possibly always, but he's the one that did my audition. I interviewed Naz, who is currently a dealer at the Hard Rock in Hollywood. I interviewed her on my channel about maybe 6 months ago, something like that. And she had just passed the audition, and she was about to start dealing in the Hard Rock room for the first time. And she was talking to me about like some of the questions she had, and we talked it through. And she was describing the audition. It was the exact same as when I did it in 2016. That's my point. It's a very challenging audition. You have to be able to do, 7-card stud well, Omaha well, pot limit Omaha well, and games like ace to 5, deuce to 7, Badoogie, all that stuff you're going to get tested on. So, my advice to you is, unless you're really good with those things and you feel like you can impress a very difficult auditioner, I would suggest instead you try working in a place like Calder or maybe the Isle. Like, you might be able to sneak into the Isle down there. You might be able to sneak into Magic City. But Calder should be a sure thing if you've got decent skills, which obviously I haven't seen you deal, but yeah. There are a couple other rooms there too that you could try and audition with as well. And the ebb and flow of all this stuff is when there are jobs available, that's when you're able to get them, right? So, anyone that's willing to give you an audition, I would say go for it. But the Hard Rock's a real tough one. So starting there can be challenging. Nick says, as a table games dealer, about how long would it take to learn poker if you don't play often, parentheses, at all? Appreciate that question. So table games dealer, you're basically cutting out the first 2 weeks of practice, and you're actually starting from a position that's well above and beyond the mechanical skill level of what most poker dealers in poker school are going to have. Table games dealers have beautiful mechanics. A little secret of mine is that I actually teach table games mechanics on True Poker Dealer for the mechanics of dealing poker. Cutting chips, I teach it like table games. Now, pitching is poker, the way that I teach that. The shuffle was originally a table game shuffle that I teach in poker. And why do I do that? Because the mechanics in table games have to be better because you're dealing with house's money. And when you deal with house's money, surveillance has an eye on you. Table games make a lot more money than poker, right? And they can lose a lot more if anything goes wrong with the dealer. So my point in saying all that is you got a 2-week advantage, and it's even more of an advantage than that because you are completely head and shoulders mechanically above poker dealers if you've been a table games dealer. That being said, you have a lot to learn still. You're looking at probably about 4 weeks, maybe 3 weeks if you're good, of learning rules and procedures, and you can learn a lot of that stuff from my course. I mean, you can learn all of it from my course. The reason I said a lot of it is you still have to sit at the table. You have to put the time in and practice dealing out the stacks. Get some people to come play the stacks, and you gotta actually get that work in too. So my course provides the information, and you have to train yourself using that information. But I do show you how to do it. My point is about how long would it take to learn poker. If you take my course and you're already a table games dealer, you should be able to do it in 3 to 4 weeks. But you got to get a little creative on your side. I appreciate that question. D1 Key says, any update on your father? Sorry to bring it up. I was just thinking about you and your family. I appreciate that. So I talked about this at the beginning of the live stream. I disappeared for 3 weeks while I was here. My dad did pass away due to COVID. It was very sad. I did the whole thing in the hospital for a bit. He was on a ventilator for 16 days. And it was just a really, really challenging time for me, and that's why I haven't been here. And after that, all that stuff was done, and I had his car, and I was actually driving down the East Coast, and it led me to Pop's Poker, where I have the closest thing that you can get to family here. And you could see some of them in the background there. And I'd never actually met them in person. I'd done a lot of work with them to help them open this room, and this has been a really nice distraction from my life, being around truly good people that run and own this property. One of the toughest things, and I'll say this to you guys, one of the toughest things to find in poker and in casino in general is people that actually care. They're here. These people here completely care. And I will say there are some good people out there, but most people in the casino industry are casino people. And if you know what that means, you know what that means. they put on the fake smile and they have that vibe and stuff. Texas Card House, I don't know the ownership, so I don't know if they're like this. I don't interact with the owners at Texas Card House at all. But the general manager, Victor, in Dallas, is a good person also who cares. I just found out the other day that someone that I've worked with in the past, Joe, he got the job as the poker manager in Daytona somewhat recently. And he's another one that cares. It's hard to find these types of people in the industry. JD in Tampa at TGT, he cares too. There's some good people out there, but a lot of the casino industry is just like sort of heartless and stuff like that. So it's really, really fulfilling to me to be able to help them open down here, just, turning a bad situation with my dad passing away into a good situation here where I get to be around people that are really good people that really want to learn and are passionate about all this stuff and care about the people they bring in and all this stuff. So that's been really enjoyable. Notice how I sort of distracted myself again from, what happened in my personal life. But I appreciate you asking that question. I don't take it in a negative way. You're checking on me basically. Well, yeah, that's what happened. Unfortunately, it was very sad. We did all wear Red Sox gear to the funeral. My dad, I was born and raised in Massachusetts, and that's where he was. So we flew up there, or I flew out there. My family flew out there, and we wore Red Sox gear. It was kind of a cool moment, and I'm happy for him that the Red Sox won in 2004, because those types of moments are really special to people that had been Red Sox fans for all those years. But yeah, let's see. So, Two Doves Nation says, we were table games dealer. It took us about 2 months to learn 30 different variety of game in Las Vegas. I'm assuming you mean for poker. Yes. So that's if you are trying to learn, if you're going from being a table games dealer to full WSOP, can deal absolutely any poker game, yeah, it's probably about a 6-week course, possibly 8 weeks, for you to get that time in and be good enough to be able to pass an audition. But if you're a table games dealer, another advantage you have is you know what it's like to do an audition. My first casino dealing audition, I was on a blackjack table. I did shoe blackjack, then I did double deck blackjack, then I did Spanish 21, 3-card poker, and Ultimate Texas Hold'em. I had to audition on all of those games in order to pass my dealer audition. And it's intimidating because in poker, your auditions are usually back of the house. In table games, sometimes they have you audition right on the tables. It happens in poker too. It's just not that common. So I was literally at live games in my white shirt and black pants, white button-down shirt, black pants. And I don't remember any of it. When I was done with it, I was just like, because you're there, and when you're auditioning in table games, especially if it's real money, real players. Now, granted, they're min betting. They put you on the cheapest table for what they have if they're going to be auditioning. But you're just I don't want to mess up the money of this and all that stuff. And it's just pretty intense. But like I said, going from table games to poker, you do have the advantage of having experience auditioning too. It's not your first time. Auditioning is really hard for what it's worth. It's one thing to learn and teach yourself how to do all this stuff, but it's another thing to have a job on the line for it. But that's also why auditioners don't just 100% look at the result of the audition. They also look at the bigger picture. Jacob says gamblers are vultures. That is true. Manura says, is there any possibility to get a poker dealer job for Asian in USA or Europe? Also on more than 3 years experience, if you can please provide your email. So I will put my email. Yeah, you can get poker dealer jobs. I've got lots of places that need dealers. So here, True Poker Dealer. I don't know how to spell my own site. So there's this. You can send that. Or if you're interested in working at Pops Poker in Virginia, then you can send that. Send that right over. Two Doves Nation says. Manura says a happy face. Two Doves Nation says, did we make the right move by going into poker? Are you the one that said out of table games dealer? We were table games dealer. It took us about 2 months to learn 30. Well, look. First of all, now that you've learned poker, you have both of them available to you under your belt, and that's very valuable to you. Also, So there are some exceptions to this. I hear, and I don't know this to be for sure, but I hear that the tips at like the Hard Rock in Hollywood nowadays for table games dealers are off the charts high. They're doing unbelievably well. But most of the time, the poker dealers are going to crush table games dealers by about 20 to 30 to 40%, sometimes even more. So my personal opinion is the real question you should be asking yourself is how much money do you really expect to be making as a dealer? If you're fine making 25 to 40 plus an hour, that's what poker makes. So then, yeah, you did the right thing. That's my opinion. Also, one of my favorite things about being a poker dealer has always been that you get to sit down. I love that personally. But I mean, honestly, it depends on you. Like, I like dealing table games. I like dealing poker too. When I deal table games, the thing that I like about it is I can sort of root for the players and it's a little bit more conversational. As a poker dealer, I like the game of poker, so it's interesting. Like, being able to deal live streams at Texas Card House where you get the headset, you got high stakes games going on, you're announcing every single action to the people in the back of the house and all that stuff. That's really cool. You don't do that in table games, right? So being a part of poker, it just depends on what you care about. If you're just about grinding it out for the money, you're probably going to be a little bit better. If you're about the conversation with people, you can do that as a poker dealer, but maybe that's a little bit easier in table games. If you enjoy the game of poker and you enjoy watching people's decision making and all that stuff, then I would probably say poker's probably better. Because when it comes to table games, it's more of an entertainment thing, honestly. Yeah, you can make some money playing table games, but you're not going to beat the house in the long run. In poker, you actually can. So the decisions are a bit different. Manura says, thanks. You're welcome. Crypto says, I take my audition next week. Can I fall if I lost track of the pot? Can I fail if I lose track of the pot? I mean, technically you can. It all sort of depends how it plays out, though. So let's say I'm auditioning you, and you're sitting in and dealing pot limit Omaha, and so at Texas Card House in Dallas, they do a really tough audition for the Omaha. Why? Because they get a lot of Omaha games, and they have pretty demanding players, and I think that's completely reasonable. All right, so what they're going to do there is they're going to have you deal 1-2 pot limit, and you're going to have to do all the math, okay? So if you lose track of the pot because you don't even understand what the opening bet is, right? Like, let's say it's 1-2 blinds, and it's call two, and they say pot, and you don't know what the answer to that is, well, you probably got a problem, right? You got to be able to figure that out. If you go on the flop and it goes all the way through the flop and you end up with $35 in the pot and they say pot and you don't know the answer to that, that's also pretty bad because it was after the flop and it's only $35 in the pot. But if instead you make it through the flop and then there's some significant action, like there's enough action where the pot gets up to, say, $250 or $245, we'll say, make it a little bit more realistic where it's not a perfect number for an example. And then you go through the whole turn action, and then the pot is $1,040, and then you go through the river action, and you had it right up until the end, and then you were off by like $200 or something, or you forgot how much was in the pot when it was $1,040. I don't think you're necessarily going to fail your audition as long as they have confidence that that was like nerves or something like that. But if you like just don't know what you're doing at all, like if it were me in that scenario and I'm auditioning and I totally forget how much is in the pot, but I did the whole thing correctly up till there, and someone says pot, and I'm just like, I would say, all right, listen, guys, I'm going to be honest. This is what I would do if I'm in the box. Listen, guys, I'm going to be honest with you, okay? I don't remember how much is in the pot right now. I am sort of nervous, but I know how to do this. This is what my process is. This is it. And I'm going to say right now, and I say floor, and I would just have a floor come over, all right, in an audition. So do I automatically fail an audition? No, you don't automatically fail an audition. It's more like, again, you have to be able to give the people that are doing the audition the confidence that you can deal in their room. That's what's important. They're not worried about you being incredibly nervous or anything like that. So crypto says, right, like adding side pods. That's what I mean. Thank you. Thank you. You're welcome. Yeah. So hopefully that helps. I talked about this earlier. There was somebody that was in the YouTube comments, that this is toward the beginning of this live stream, who mentioned they made two relatively basic mistakes in their audition and they still passed. Like, it's not an audition like you're trying to get the part for a movie where you're competing against everybody else in the world and there's only one job, right? Poker dealers, they might have one available dealing job in that moment, but if you can deal, they eventually want you to come in one way or another, because there's a lot of dealing jobs and they just want to be able to know that you can do the job well enough to be able to be there. So let's see. D1 Key says, if you could run your own casino, how would you structure it? Like, what games would you offer at what house edge? I'm just curious, as someone who has been in the industry, how would you make it better? I enjoy this question. It's very similar to the question that we talked about, that I forget if you were the one that asked it, but I know you were part of the discussion a month ago or so, where we were discussing like what other poker games we could create, or non-poker games that use a similar player versus player structure that people could have fun with. So if I could run my own casino, which, I mean, let's see, hold on, what's the answer to this question? The casino industry is one that is a money-making industry, and their goal, basically in table games, you're trying to hold as much on the table as possible. So the games that you bring in, actually, well, for me, for me, it's just a totally different thing. Like, I'm not looking to run a casino, so it's so hard for me to answer this. So I have to like pretend that I am in my head. What's the core of what you're trying to ask me? You're trying to ask me, how would I make it better? It's a tough thing. I mean, okay, this is what I would do. If I were running a casino, I would build something that is exactly what's profitable now, okay? So I would start out by having there be traditional table games that have the proper hold percentage for the tables so that I can make money off of those. Traditional slot machines that are what people currently like, that make the proper amount of money. Traditional poker, okay? And then the thing that I would do next is I would understand why a lot of people actually come to the casino in the first place. It's because they don't have the thing that they want in their lives, and they want to get feelings that make them feel good. Some people are there for connection. Some people are there for that uplifting feeling. And what I would probably do is incorporate connection into gambling. So I would do that in a way where, maybe you sit down at a slot machine and it requires things that facilitate authenticity and vulnerability with the people around you in a way that works, right? It would all have to be innovated and figured out to make it comfortable so that it's not too much, so that people want to do it as opposed to don't want to do it and all that stuff. And I would start introducing things that, because ultimately, there's two things that make people happy in life. And that's it. Number one, I guess this is technically my philosophy, but I think this is pretty accurate. Number one is what you do in your life. All right, what you're spending your time doing. And number two is the connections that you have, the people that you have in your life. And outside of those two core things, everything else is built upon. So what you do in your life ends up, money falls into that category, because most of the time it gives you the flexibility and freedom, if you have money, to be able to do things that you want to do in your life. So on the connection side, so like getting money is on the what you do in your life, but facilitating connection in gambling games, to me, is a way, like when you come to the casino, there's so many different people that have casino friends, right? Well, why not expand that a lot and make it so that people are excited to see their closest friends when they come in every single time, and you've helped people get closer to each other and really feel comfortable with one another, and not have it just be about gambling, but also have them get to know each other in life and all that stuff. And then the casino is the place that they met, and all this other stuff can turn into sort of a beautiful thing. Now, there's a lot of innovation that would have to happen in order for that to work, but that's the direction that I would probably take it. And I do appreciate that question. Let's see. David says, say hello to dealers JR and LM from up north. I will do that. JR has not made his way down here. But I will say hi to LM. I have had the opportunity to meet her, and that's really cool that you jumped in here to say that, David. Appreciate it. I'll take a little picture of this screen right here, and I'll show this to LM. Appreciate that. Let's see. To Doves Nation, any advice for body ache and back pain? Yeah, I actually have some. So number one, if you have back pain, if it's lower back pain, sit more upright and have your chair be lower. Okay, as a poker dealer, we have this tendency to want our chair to be higher. What that does is it gets us going back and forth a lot. If you actually lower your chair, and you give yourself more back support, your shoulders are going to take some more wear and tear, but they strengthen pretty quickly. And you just have the dealer or the players, if they're not pushing chips forward, you just have them push the chips forward. That will stabilize your lower back. So sitting lower in your chair will help with that. Also, working 4 or less days a week makes a huge difference. I understand that a lot of people want to be full-time poker dealers. I understand it. You make more money that way. Full-time jobs are really tough to get. But poker is this industry. Poker dealers are able to pay their bills off of 4 and 3 days a week in a lot of cases, and I really recommend that. I personally look at dealing poker as a thing you can do in order to pay for the rest of your life, but have it be something that you do that's not the focus of your life. It doesn't have to be. And less wear and tear in your body is a way to do that. Not working 5 days a week is a huge way to help with that. And then also, I would personally, depending on what state you're in, there are really, really good CBD or TCH bombs, like a little rubbing thing. You put your finger on it. It's like an icy hot feel, and then you rub it on your back wherever you need it. Stuff like that can make a pretty big difference as well. And depending on where it's legal, either get CBD only, or maybe you could get a THC rub. And I never would have thought this stuff would really make a difference, but it does for sure. Let's see. Now I gotta scroll up to see what these comments were. So hopefully that helped you. Also with body aching, pitching. If you're pitching like this all the time, you're gonna get shoulder and wrist pain, possibly back pain too. Get your pitch to the point where it's like here instead of like this. You can watch my video to see how to do that. One of my free lessons, I forget if it's lesson 3, 4, or 5, but one of those lessons is the mechanics of the pitch, and you can definitely figure out how to get less motion if you have a lot of motion in it, because think about how many cards you pitch. If you're doing this every single time, it does wear on you a lot. Let me see. Crypto says, thank you. What can fail you in the audition? Not taking a rake can definitely fail you in an audition, depending on where you're working. Not calling the floor is the number one thing for me, and I'm just like this. Like, I can't trust this dealer. Like, imagine this: something happens that is just like, I watched in an audition recently. Is a great example. A dealer messed up the side pots and then just tried to fix it themselves and made it worse. Right? You do that in an audition, done. That was a weird sound effect. If you're, let me see. Yeah, fixing any mistakes. And this is one of the things, when you're in a class or if you've been a home game dealer, you're probably used to doing things your way and just handling situations and fixing it on your own. But you just can't do that in an audition. You need to remember that these guys or women that are auditioning you need to feel comfortable with you, like 100%. So that is something that ends up being really loud. If your mechanics aren't good, you're going to fail your audition. You have to have good, solid mechanics. You just do. Like, if you can't shuffle and you can't get the cards right, that's a super fundamental thing. And so you're not going to be able to pass at least one of my auditions. Also, if you make a real basic mistake, such as, I got asked the question, what do you do for a floor call? This was a hypothetical, so this didn't actually happen. What do you do for a floor call in a 1-2 no limit game if it goes 1-2 blinds, raised to 20, and then someone puts out 27, doesn't say anything, and then next person calls, next person calls, next person calls. If you do something like that in an audition where you allow the raise to go from 20 to 27, I mean, that's a very fundamental thing. Verifying each bet that comes out there is just incredibly fundamental. The only scenario that I would ever even consider passing somebody where that happened, where it was allowed to happen, is like if it went to 20, somehow blended in with the table where the felt was bad or something like that, and there was a lot going on, and a supervisor was challenging the dealer by talking to them, and the 20 went in on the other side of the table, and the player was concealing their cards or something weird like that, and then they thought that 27 was the only raise because they didn't see the 20, I would consider still passing someone then. But if the dealer watched it go 20 to 27, that's just a very fundamental, like, not allowed thing. So stuff like that will get you to fail if you don't understand the basic fundamental rules and you don't verify the bets. If you can't count down and all in, that might have some trouble for you. I would definitely practice that. I noticed as I was getting feedback on my course that I need to include a video in the course about counting down all-ins, because that is something that's pretty challenging. So the way that I was thinking about it is I have a ton of examples of counting down all-ins throughout the course, but I don't have any specific video addressing it where a certain person can practice and follow what I do and stuff like that. So, you know, if you have trouble counting down all-ins and making side pots, then you might fail the audition there too. But I mean, the honest answer is a lot of stuff that can fail you. Mistakes in general can fail you. Jason says, in my experience, any major game protection mistake can fail your audition. Yes, that's true. Crypto says, I know you can't roll your deck. That is a complete fail. And pushing wrong pots to the wrong person. Yeah, if you push the pot to the wrong person, that is, I mean, it's not an automatic fail. It sort of depends. Like, if you push the pot not all the way into them, but you push it sort of in front of them, realize it before anything happens with it and call the floor, that's okay, you know? I mean, it's not good. You might fail because of that, but chances are you're not going to fail just because of that. If you handle it well, call the floor, protect everything from being impossible to determine. Rolling the deck, you're saying that's a complete fail. That sort of depends on poker rooms. Some people are incredibly nitpicky about like a few things here or there. So that definitely can happen in that way, but I don't think it's like an automatic fail if you roll your deck a time or two. It's just one of those things that you're probably, at any audition you do, you're probably going to have someone that's doing the audition that has a couple things on their list that are pet peeves of theirs, which is really what it is, that they will fail you for. The way that I look at deck rolling is there's a lot of dealers that are trained in different settings. I'm experienced in a lot of these like crossing paths because I have people that deal out this state, this state, this state, this state, this country, this country, this country. And I've had interactions and conversations and watched and done auditions and all this stuff from people from all over the place. So I see all these different habits show up, which is different than a casino doing their own training and hiring people from their own training. There's a lot of different ways that this can happen. What's my point? My point is that if I see somebody roll their deck, but I understand from watching them that they're an experienced dealer that knows what they're doing, I just have to teach them. I can hire them, but I have to teach them to undo that one habit. It's not an automatic fail. Like, I'm looking, if I'm hiring dealers, especially in 2021 after COVID, when there's less people who have the skill set that are interested in still doing it, casinos are having a tough time finding people, especially nowadays. I just want people that can do the job well. If there's a few things that I have to teach them, retrain them on, hold them to the standard, but retrain them on, it's not that big a deal. But yeah, everybody's got their pet peeves, so that's not a universal thing is my point. But it is universal that poker rooms don't want the dealers to do that. It's just not universal that it's an automatic fail in the audition. Sort of doesn't really work that way. It's sort of like, do I feel comfortable with this person being a dealer in my room at the end of the day? It's not like, it's not like you're playing, like when you're auditioning, it's not like you're playing the game Operation and you've got that metal piece that's going in there, and if you touch the side, it's fail, you lose. That's not really, that is the perception of auditions a lot of the time, but that's not really how it works. Let's see. D1 Key says, I know it's hard to answer. I just feel like casinos are known as being greedy and deceptive. I just want to know how to make it fair. How to make it fair. Can you elaborate on that, D1 Keys? I do. So the thing that you're trying to ask, whatever it is exactly, I want to answer that question. So I want you, and I'll feel satisfied too. I want to answer that question. By the way, if you can like this video, I'll appreciate it. Apparently it helps with the algorithm or something. It just takes a second to click like on it if you're watching already. So yeah, ask me the question that you're trying to answer again. I'm sorry that I didn't answer it in the first time around. For if I were to open a casino, yeah, just help me out because I want to answer it properly. Crypto says, but I would like to know what will they won't look at because I'm a little nervous. I know the mechanics of all the games, like forgetting to take house rake correctly. Yeah, I mean if you forget to take the rake, well, but no, I've passed people that haven't taken proper rake in a hand or two. It's because like here's what happens. It's all circumstantial. This is my point, right? Like when I audition somebody, appreciate all the likes, by the way. I see that you guys just added a bunch of them. It's very, very kind of you. Thank you. When I audition somebody, one of the things I'm probably going to do is challenge them in some way. Sometimes the way that I challenge the dealer is I tell 4 players or 5 players in the hand, everybody go all in. And the players are just like, okay. And the dealer's just like, oh, gosh. The number one mistake that happens in those hands that I see is making mistakes in side pots. The number 2 mistake that I see in those hands is the dealer forgets to take the rake. Why? Because this is like red flags going off everywhere for the dealer. They're just like, oh my God, I have to figure all of this stuff out, and they forget to take a rake. Okay? Have I passed dealers in that situation who have forgotten to take a rake but handled all the side pots and all the tricky stuff properly? Yes. Why? Because in that moment, they will never forget to take a rake again when I tell them you forgot to take a rake after they push the pot. Because then I personally, and this is where training comes in, right? Being an auditioner is one thing, being a trainer auditioner is another thing. I personally tell them one of the toughest things to remember to do in one of these huge all-ins is to take the rake. Now, they still might make the mistake again, but it's that type of thing where if they get all the side pots right and they get every other thing right, and I'm the one that's deciding if they should work here, and they forgot to take a rake, I understand that that's where the money comes that makes this all worth it, but that's not really what I'm testing them on in this. When I'm looking for rake, I'm testing them because I have 4 players in for $24 or for $6 each. It's a $24 pot plus the $1 small blind and the $2 big blind. And then I have on the turn, and I keep the action going quickly, I have on the turn someone bets 7, someone calls 7, and then I have everybody check the rest of the way through. Did they get the rake right? That's a hand where I'm testing to see if they take the rake properly. Because that's hard to do, it's hard to keep up with it, and that's really important in order to be able to deal the game. If they can prove to me that they do it on that hand, on the next hand when I'm testing them on the all-ins, I want them to take the rake. It's an incredibly important part of this job. But if they're fresh out of dealer school and they get all these side pots and everything right, I mean, I'll probably still pass them is my point. Every single auditioner is different, though. Let's see. Hopefully this stuff keeps helping you understand what you're talking about or what we're talking about. So IR Suit says, do the best you can. If that's not this place, someone else will hire you if you know your stuff. Don't overthink it. Yeah, it's very good advice. Jason says, take a pen and paper with you to the audition. Pass or fail. You want to take notes on any suggestions or points that auditioners have for you. Absolutely true. Let's see. Crypto saying, thank you to people. Jason says, if you practice correctly as much as you say, then I think you'll probably do fine, and you're just being overly nervous. And a part of it does have to do with how much competition there is for how many jobs too, right? Like if you're auditioning in a brand new poker room that's opening like Pops, here they need dealers more than other places. So if you want to come out to Richmond, Virginia, you'll have a higher chance of getting a dealer job. No joke. This is how it works. They don't have a lot of dealers right now. Okay, they need maybe 5 to 10 more dealers today in order to be able to run this room properly. So if 20 people show up, they're taking a much higher percentage of the people that audition. They still have their standards, so they might not fill, they might not fill all the spots from one wave of auditions. But the point I'm trying to make is you have a much higher chance of getting it when there's a lot of spots than if there's one dealer job available and 10 people auditioning. It's just how it works. So come out to Virginia if you want a poker dealing job. You got to pass my audition, though. I'm the auditioner, so it is challenging. So I'm not going to say that it's easy, but it's different what everybody's looking for sure. Let's see. IRC, it's a lot more about your attitude and confidence than little mistakes you could make. Go out there and show you're passionate and know your stuff. It's true. Also, like your attitude and personality and helpfulness and passion, just like IR Suit's saying, like all that stuff do go a long way. And keep in mind too, if you're auditioning and there's 7 of you and there's 1 person dealing and 6 of you that are playing, while you're playing, you're basically being interviewed, and it's an opportunity for you to demonstrate that you're somebody that they want to have around. So if you're playing, say that you do really well in your audition, and I've had this happen where I've auditioned people like this. You do really well in your audition, you absolutely crush it, and then when you're playing and other people are auditioning, you're trying to trip them up, you're being a jerk and all this stuff. I'm not hiring that person. Because they're not a team player, they're not somebody that I want around. They're somebody that it's all about them, and they're not interested in anybody else's success. They're not interested in making anything easier, and they actually make it harder for other people. So that person's going to be looking to get promoted at the expense of other people and stuff like that. So you have opportunities to show that you're a helpful person that cares, that's interested, But I would say keep it authentic all the time. I think that's really important too. Let's see. AWK says, that's the exact reason I want to be a dealer. It's a perfect part-time job to push me through school and allow me to follow my other passions. 100%. I do have this vision in my head. I don't think I'll ever do it, but you never know. But if I do ever open a poker room, personally, in order for it to be fulfilling for me, I would want dealers to work there, that I would only want part-time dealers to work there personally, and I would want it to have a required entrepreneur training class for every single one of them once a week, where I'm helping train people to be entrepreneurs that are dealers. Or maybe instead of entrepreneurs, it would be passion, side passive income, blah, 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 stuff like that. Because I think being a poker dealer is a great, great gateway toward other amazing things that people can have in life. Because you can pay your bills without working full time. That's why. And it's really cool. Anytime I hear someone that's trying to get through school or something like that and follow their other passions, and poker dealing is what they do in the meantime, it makes me super happy. IR Sweet says, you'll be just fine, or you'll be fine, man, talking to crypto. Awesome. Jason says, regarding the pitch, absolutely learn and master pitching with the middle finger and never use your wrist to pitch. Yes, that is true. For an audition, I made the comment sort of in passing, mechanics are hugely important for the audition. There's no way around that. The better your mechanics, the better everything looks. It feels more like poker. And going like this is not something that they want to see. I actually make my wrist tired just doing that. A clean pitch, clean shuffle, clean chip cutting, all that stuff is beautifully, I'm saying the wrong thing, but it's really helpful in order to pass an audition. Also, don't scissor pitch. I mean, so I talked about everyone's got their pet peeves. Man, do I hate when a dealer scissor pitches. I just hate it. Because it's just like just do it right. I hate scissor pitching. That's a pet peeve. I'm listening to myself right now. I'm like, well, they're still delivering the cards. But to scissor pitch, you do have to do a lot of wrist stuff, too, for what it's worth. And that does wear on your body over time, etc. Crypto says, thank you. Also, clearing your hands. You're the best. And he has the key emoji. Appreciate that. Clearing your hands. Some poker rooms don't care about it. I sort of do. Like, I don't want you going into the bank, taking it, like doing a buy-in with a bunch of money and then coming out and not clearing your hands. I'd prefer you clear your hands. You got to get the fundamentals down. Like, I watched a couple auditions recently, and dealers were literally picking up the pots in their hand to move, like a side pot. They'd pick it up in their hand, move it over the top of another side pot, or the main pot, and then push the pot. And it's just like, no, it's not okay. Like, there's certain fundamental things that if you do this, I don't know what else you do like that. And so there are certain things that'll fail an audition like that. But in some properties, you get another chance in an audition, a week later, if you can clean up these things and show that you get it. Let's see. D1 Key says, I guess what I'm getting at is I want to break into this industry because I'm super interested in it and I think it would be a ton of fun, but I guess in my mind I'm trying to justify it. I've always had a tough time personally justifying table games because what table games are in nature is a house advantage where, for every dollar that you bet in a table game, the house is keeping a theoretical 1 to 7 cents. And it's just this, like, this is why I like poker, because you have a chance to win. It's a game of skill played against other players. You do have to beat the rake, but it's beatable. And so, like, to me, it's a competitive thing. Table games is just like it's like a slot machine sort of, but a little bit different. So, like, it's part of why, for me, I also have a tough time justifying working in table games nowadays. I was in it for about 2.5 years, and at times I miss the fun nature of it. But, man, it's tough watching people lose their money all the time, although that does happen in poker, too, for what it's worth. You know, some people treat poker like table games, and so it's a little bit tough. It would make me feel better if everybody was treating it like a game of skill and competing against everyone else. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know. Send me an email, and we can sort of take this offline. D1 keys, and you know, maybe I owe you a conversation anyway because of a previous email that you sent me, and I appreciate that, and we can chat about this then. Jacob says, are dealers not taught to leave people's chips in front of them? If everyone is all in, I don't even make a pot until action is over. In an audition and in a class, they're typically taught to build all the pots first. I also do the thing that you said, and in my course, in my course on YouTube, the full Texas Hold'em course includes a full video on side pots and multi-way all-ins, and in that, I first teach it completely by teaching people to build all the pots out. Then after that, in the same video, I teach everybody to do it the way that you're describing, where you run out all the action first, and then you figure out what you need to figure out. It does save time to do that, but the general industry standard is to have people build the pots, and a lot of poker rooms require that, and I do agree that it takes up extra time, and it's not always necessary, but it does prevent certain issues because those are shortcuts at the end of the day. And once all the money is out in front of the table, there's game protection issues. Like, you know, when someone goes all in and you leave the money in front of them and you're working down there on a side pot, it's not that hard for somebody to discreetly reach in and take some of their bet back or something like that. And I've seen stuff like that on surveillance that people have done that I've heard people complain about. But in the grand scheme of things, you know, if I'm running a room, if I have an experienced dealer only, I am comfortable with them doing the shortcut that you're talking about. So are dealers not taught to leave people's chips in front of them? I would say it's sort of circumstantial. Generally, you want to make your main pot. If it's a split pot game, it's like you use your judgment most of the time, what makes the most sense as a dealer, and I think you're basically saying the same thing there. Like, there are still times where you would bring it in, just depending on the circumstance, but a lot of poker rooms literally require their dealers to bring everything in. Now, when I worked at the Hard Rock in Hollywood, Florida, years ago, okay, this wasn't recently, I don't know what they do nowadays, I was told not to bring bets in for stuff like that because they did want to get more hands out. So, but that was specifically me. I don't even know that they told everybody that. Like, you know, I took my audition, and then one of the things that they said in the audition, because I think I asked the question, he said, no, don't bring the bets in. He even said, bring the turn before you bring the flop bets in. To me specifically, but it's probably because he believed that I could keep up with it. I don't know what, like, there's a lot of different directions you can go. I teach both. That's my answer. D1 Key says, I tell people about it and they feel like casinos are like the tobacco industry and it's just out to scam and hurt people. I understand where they're coming from. You know, casinos definitely do. Again, this is a separate conversation probably, but casinos really do put a lot of time and energy into building unhealthy habits for people. But there's the thing that's difficult about categorizing casinos like that and not categorizing other industries like that is just it's a perception thing for how capitalism works. Capitalism, in my opinion, is this thing that we especially have in the United States, where we train people to spend their money on our product over and over again, and we make it feel good whether or not it's actually healthy. So you could point to casinos like this, you could point to tobacco like this, But the number one thing that actually kills people is probably the food industry, right? But nobody really thinks of it like that. Yeah, there's some documentaries and stuff like that comes out that way. But I mean, the amount of habit creation associated with food and death associated with food is really high. But we don't look at it that way because it's food and we all eat food and not everybody has to gamble. And there's no religious negativity about eating food. Or political negativity about eating food. So it's a really complicated issue that you're sort of bringing up. At the end of the day, we sort of support, I say sort of because it is only sort of, we sort of support free will for people and businesses to be able to do things within the law that allows the people in our country or in the world to use free will to make decisions, to participate in business activities that they choose to. And so, I mean, there's so much. I mean, I had a startup. I raised like hundreds of thousands of dollars and started building software. And I was talking to the designer one day, and the designer that worked for me explained all of the little detailed information that they learned in class and in working in the world as a designer that goes into the UX of, is that the right term? Man, I'm having a mental blank right now. But the design of the flow of how a user uses an app. Like I created an app that had nothing to do with poker, and he was the designer that was figuring out where the buttons should be and how they should work. And he was explaining to me that there's a satisfying feeling for people if you make the button this way or make it this size or make it this color or make it this interaction. And it's the same stuff that's in slot machines, but we're using it in like social media is another great example. All of this stuff is capitalism, and social media is getting a lot of negativity, but is it considered the same as gambling? What's actually happening? All this stuff. There's a lot to the thing that you're talking about. So I think it's reasonable to say that that's what capitalism is in general. And I think it's reasonable to say, if I educate you that the house advantage exists, or I educate you that eating unhealthy over and over and over again at fast food restaurants is going to affect your health, or I educate you that smoking is bad, or I educate you that being on your phone on social media is going to affect your habits and the way that you interact with information and requires instant gratification, and watching porn and all this stuff is going to affect the way that you interact with sex. If I educate you on that to a degree, I think that, you know, all these things sort of fall in the same world and industry, and like it's capitalism to me. It's not just gambling, casinos. That's just a political, social, religious thing, or I don't know exactly where it comes from, but I don't categorize that in as a separate tobacco thing. It's just, this is perception we're talking about. Jacob says, back to poker, if everyone is all in, I don't even make a pot until action is over. Yes, and I do a similar thing, totally. Again, though, there are exceptions to that, and I know that you probably agree with this. You just might not be thinking of it, right? If it's a split pot game and there is, or if it's a double board bomb pot, right? You're gonna have to split the pot anyway. If you got 3 players, you might just have to make that pot right then and there, or you could just run it out. But it's tough because when you run it out in a split pot game where there's a double board, and when half the board goes to the top, half the board goes to the bottom, it gets really annoying when the players start doing this stuff with their own chips. So it's a little bit easier to bring it all in and handle it if there's no other way to do it, right? Because even if somebody gets quartered, well, if there's 3 stacks, there's no simple quartering with 3 stacks. The only thing you can really do is bring it all in, I think. If I'm wrong about that, I'm wrong about that. But, you know, you guys know what I'm saying. Most of the time, I totally agree with you, Jacob. But that's only if you're an experienced dealer, and if you mess up, it's on you. And that's one of the challenges of not doing it all in advance. Gigi says, how big is the player pool? How big is the player pool? Oh, in Richmond. So this is brand new out here. So far, they did 0 marketing, and I should say we, because I was here for a part of it, or for the whole first 4 days. We did 0 marketing. It's a soft opening, right? Soft opening because this is all very new for everyone involved in this process here. And we were able to get 5 or 6 tables going of cash, 2-5, 1-3, 1-2 no limit. It was pretty successful like that for 0 marketing. So that was pretty cool. How big is the player pool? I can say in Richmond that there's like 1.3 million people in the greater Richmond area. So there's a lot of people out here. I believe that there are a lot of poker players out here. I hear people talk about driving 2 hours up to MGM in Maryland all the time. And so my guess is that there's a lot of poker players out here, but I'm not going to know that yet because I have to see what happens after Pops does marketing. I just have no idea. David says, thanks for the info. You're welcome. Another David says, for sure. Let me see. And David said, cheers. Appreciate that. Mayor says, can you show us how you deal on real? What does on real mean? So can you ask me that question again? I don't understand what you're asking me. Can you show us how you deal on real? Does that mean like just deal right now? I'm not sure what you mean. Hit Girl says, I make $58K a year in my regular full-time non-dealing job, and I make more than my take-home pay dealing 3 days a week. Yeah, that's life. That's being a dealer. It's a really beautiful thing having that second career available to you. Gigi says, underground dealers will have a scissor pitch. Yes, they do. I hate it. I hate it. And I do teach the underground dealers that I have the time to teach. When I'm a supervisor, so if I'm ever your shift manager or your supervisor in a poker room, which probably won't happen anymore because I don't see myself going back to that, but if I'm ever your supervisor or shift manager and you're scissor pitching on my shift, unless you have a specific reason that you have to scissor pitch, which I've run into dealers that at least have told me that before, like they have no feeling in one of their fingers or something like that. Unless that's you, I'm going to teach you to pitch regular and I'm going to require you to do it. I'm just saying. But this is part of the pet peeve world. Like it's a whole totally different thing. Like, but yeah, underground dealers do have scissor pitches. Let me see. All right. It looks like you have a 2-part question. Mayor says, can you show us how you deal on real? And I buy your course. It's awesome. I appreciate that. Yeah, I still want to know what you're asking. Oh, on live videos of you dealing on real live. So if you go to the YouTube channel, so my YouTube channel, and then you go to hold on, let me find the place to go. So if you go to my channel, not like a video of mine, but my channel, and you go to community, there's a community tab. When you go to any YouTube channel, mine included, there's a community tab across the top. It says home on the left, videos on the videos, then playlists, then community. If you click on community, I have a couple of links in there of me dealing the Texas Card House live stream, so you can watch me dealing on there. These are past high stakes Texas Hold'em, Texas Card House live stream games in Dallas. So I've done that, and I have links to it in the community tab on my YouTube channel that you can go look at. And thank you for asking that. AWK, I'm going to school for quantitative finance, and funnily enough, it shares a lot of concepts with poker, such as making decisions with imperfect information and risk management. I thought about trying to get good enough to play as my side hustle, but being a dealer is definitely the more reliable and less stressful option. LOL. Yeah, a lot of people find that, right? What's the best way to beat the rake? Be a dealer, you know? A poker pro that I work with on my other YouTube channel that I'm still growing called Live Poker Coaching, he talks about how he would rather deal poker than play and grind 1-2 or 1-3 no limit, and sometimes even 2-5 no limit, because your hourly as a poker dealer, especially if you're good, is going to be higher than as a player in a lot of cases. That being said, there is something satisfying. Every single poker player knows what I'm talking about. There's something very satisfying about being able to say, I can live off of poker if I need to. That's a really satisfying thing to say. I wish that I could say that. I tried at one point. I didn't have a big enough bankroll. I didn't make it. I do consider myself to be a winning poker player, but so does every poker player, right? But yeah, that would be really cool to be able to say that, you know what, I have lived off of this game. But yeah, I'm not there. But dealing is I mean, you are going to, as a poker dealer, you are probably going to beat the hourly of a 1-2 no limit winning player. That is probably true. Chris said, what's up, Marc? Hey, what's going on? So true. I lost 70 pounds by fasting. I don't remember what I said, but that sounds cool. Michael K says, just jumped in. Is this your new spot, or are you just there helping the room get up and running? Appreciate that. I'm just here for a week. You can still see me at Texas Card House in Dallas. I will be back there maybe 2 to 3 weeks. I don't know exactly how long it's going to take. I still have to wrap some things up with the passing of my father. And that was a whole very, very sad 3 weeks, and coming to Pop's Poker for a week to help them open their room has been an absolute blessing. I've been treated incredibly well here, and that has definitely helped me get through this difficult time. All of the people here are just amazing. But yeah, this isn't like me coming here to do what I was doing out there, but this is I've been working with them to help them get to opening for months and months and months. So you can go back on my channel and you can see I actually interviewed Rich, the director of poker here, months ago, talking about opening a poker room from scratch. And these are people that I've been in contact with for a long time, and so it's only fitting that I was out here and for opening. And you will see me here again. So if you do want to play in Richmond and you do want to play at Pop's Poker, I might show up sometime. This will not be the last time that I step foot here. That is for sure. Let's see. Two Dubs Nation, how long does it take to be a proficient poker dealer? It takes about 140 hours of dedicated and focused time and attention to learn to be able to pass the audition. And then it takes 2 to 12 months in order to really get good at it. Leaning more towards 6 to 12 months of actually working on the job. When you get the job and pass the audition, you are not done learning at all. And any dealer that you talk to can tell you this. The learning, it just keeps going. The habit training, it just keeps going. In order to be a good dealer, you got to put that time in, and it takes a while. There's no way around that either. There's not a single like, you could take the most intelligent, most competent, most capable athlete, politician, businessman. You can give them a deck of cards and tell them to deal poker, and they won't be able to do it unless they learn and practice. There's no way around that. Like, trying to be a poker dealer is one of the most humbling things in the world if you haven't put the time in, or even if you want to do it. Like, I had a dealer who he's retired now, right? He used to tell, and I don't think this is a good thing to do. I would never say this, but he used to tell players that would like tell him how to deal. Hey, here, you want to give it a shot? Like, you can't say that as a dealer. He used to do it and get away with it anyway. But I mean, it's true. Like, no player at the table can just jump in the box and deal. There's not a single time I've ever seen that. There'd have to be a trained dealer, or at least somebody who watched True Poker Dealer and really learned the mechanics of it just for fun and decided to give it a try and has played poker for a really long time. And even they are going to have trouble in certain situations for sure. It's a very challenging thing to do. Let's see. Now, I'm curious what Chris meant when he said I lost 70 pounds by fasting. Like, I must have been talking about something related to that. I'm so curious what that means. How long does it take to be... Yep. How to get people to give a tip. I did not see it in the course. I talk about it a little bit. So hustling is a challenging issue in the casino industry in general. Table games and poker are both something that you don't want to hustle, and there's hard hustles where you say, that money right there, I think that should be in my box, and not allowed. No hustling is allowed, for the record. And then there's soft hustling, where you do things that sort of imply that you should tip without directly saying it. So all of that stuff is not the answer, okay? The answer to how to get money in your box, and I did talk about this throughout the courses a bit, the answer is you have to become likable, memorable, and like the charisma, all that stuff. We had the conversation in a previous live stream about a month ago where somebody was saying that they really like when a dealer wears like gold chains and stuff like that. That's a little bit more easy to pull off in home games as a dealer, because when you're working in casinos, a lot of the time they have standards that they hold you to. But if you're wearing the gold chains and all that stuff, you're sort of communicating that you have charisma and people like you more. Now, some people might tip you less because they're like, well, you have money in your life. But other people are going to be like, hell yeah, this guy's cool. Or, if the girl that's at the table that's dealing has that like really like if you tip somebody and the way that they respond makes you feel like I want to do that again, that's a good way to get tips. So charisma, being memorable, and what's the right way to phrase this? Avoid hustling. Like, hustling practices will get you tipped, but they'll also get you fired. So it's why I'm keeping that out of there. Will you get more money? Yes. Will you get fired? Yes. It's just, you got to avoid that stuff because you put pressure on players. They don't want to come back. You want people to actually like you. Another way to get more tips is to deal faster. Another way to get more tips is to be truly good at your job. And something that's really interesting about this came up. I was having this conversation with an experienced in Hollywood, Florida. There's somebody that used to be a table games dealer, and they're very conversational and friendly, and they used to be able to get tips like that back then. But in poker, they realized that you can't just have conversation any moment because people are concentrating and trying to make money, and your conversation can affect the game. So step one in order to be able to make more tips is always be excellent at the job. Understand the culture, understand what's going on, understand how to run the game, understand all those things. Step two is understanding how to create those interactions so people want to tip you more. There's a lot of answers to this question. It's after 4 in the afternoon, and I actually have to drive from Virginia to Florida today. So I am going to be jumping off here any minute now. I'm going to try to get through the rest of these. If you ask me this question on the next live stream, a little bit earlier into the live stream, I'm happy to talk about tipping and how to get more tips and all this stuff. There's so much to talk about there. I mean, for every one of these topics, there's so much to talk about. So more than happy to do some of that stuff. Let's see. I'm gonna sort of fly through the rest of these questions. How long does it? Yeah, it answered that. Give a tip. Pretty good for a soft opening. Yeah, it was pretty good here. I need a refresher course. Any ideas? Let me see. A refresher course. I mean, well, you're already a member of True Poker Dealer. Do you have the full course? I have to look you up now to see which membership you actually have so that I can properly answer your question. I don't know if this will affect the video quality. I'm not sure. Let's see. Where are you, GG? Refresher course. So right now you're at the support True Poker Dealer level, and I definitely appreciate that. But if you get the full Texas Hold'em course through YouTube, then you will be able to get access to the entire course of how to deal poker. So to me, that's the answer. If that's not what you're asking for, let me know. Mayor says on live. Videos of you dealing on real live. I don't have any. I don't deal on a live stream. I've never done that before because casinos are so protective about that. Where it's like 100% live on mine. I've dealt on a Texas Card House live stream, which is a 15-minute delay from real life, and the videos that are on the community tab basically show that. Casino Dealer J, $5 super chat. Super appreciate that. It's good to see you. Guys, Casino Dealer J has his own YouTube channel where he talks about all kinds of casino stuff. I've been on his channel before. He invited me to go there recently. My father's passing sort of got in the way of that a little bit, and so did COVID. But he's an amazing, amazing, amazing YouTuber with a real energy and way of talking that's really, really meaningful. He says, hi, I hope you're doing well, buddy. Still the best poker channel. What's your favorite brand of cards and chips to deal with? Answer next episode. I will do that. I'll answer that question first thing next live stream. Appreciate you. Let's see. So, yeah, I will show you. Mayor, you're asking about videos of me dealing real live. You can find them on the Texas Card House channel, or if you go to my YouTube channel, the main page, the True Poker Dealer page, and you find the community tab, there's a link there to a video of me dealing live. ATK said blindness, thanks. He was talking about the food industry is about capitalism. Oh, right. That's true. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Food industry. Gigi said there's a place here in Phoenix that offers a 40-hour course for poker dealing. Is this the best way to get practice outside of online courses videos? That's a good question. I know nothing about their 40-hour course, so unfortunately I couldn't speak to that, but I can research that and let you guys know later. Let's see. somebody named 10 years ago, is Croupier a good career? So Croupier, for those that don't know, is the UK version of poker dealer. It's the same job essentially. So I don't really know what it's like in Europe to be a dealer, but I can tell you that in the United States, being a poker dealer is a good career, but it's a better supplement to life. It's a better way for you to, let me see, like 3 or 4 days a week, get time in so you can get all your bills paid and figure out what you want to do in your life. That's my personal opinion. If you do that for 30 years as a supplement income and you never have to worry about money, then that's absolutely fine. I don't actually know how much money you make as a poker dealer, aka croupier, in other countries. It's different all across the board. I would like to actually get that figured out. Seems like we're having some, it says no data. What's going on here? Are you guys able to hear me right now? It's making it seem like, excellent condition. We're back. All right. Well, I apologize for that. I don't know if the feed just went out. I got a message from YouTube saying it wasn't great. By the way, I appreciate you, Casino Dealer Jay. I'm going to say it shamelessly. I know that part of what you're doing is casino dealers take care of each other in the industry. We will go and throw in super chats and tip. Like if a poker dealer is playing at a table, they're going to start tipping more just to get the tipping culture up a little bit higher. And I know that you're in there and you're super chatting just so people can see you can super chat. I really do appreciate that. It is a nice way to show appreciation for my channel and my time and all that stuff. But I mean, I do appreciate you guys very much, even without that. Let's see. So I don't know about that place in Phoenix. Gigi, if you can send me an email, I'm going to put my email address here with a little bit more info on that. Marc at truepokerdealer.com. Gigi, if you can send me an email talking about the Phoenix 40-hour course, I can sort of evaluate it. Gigi said, "Do not have the full course." Yeah, you don't have access to that. There's 2 different Gigis here, by the way. So it gets a little bit confusing. Tony, hello. I'm just stopped by to say hi and thank you for your advice a few weeks ago. It has been useful. I got the job. I'll be glad to give you updates if the stream, if I'm not working here. France. Oh, awesome. Appreciate that. Hit Girl says yes. Casino Dealer J says you deserve it. I appreciate that very much. Okay, what I want to do now before I go, and you can still ask your questions and stuff. I want to see if I can grab Rich, the director of poker, at Pops Poker, just for a few minutes before I leave. I'm 30 minutes later than I wanted to be already, but I do want to give him an opportunity to come say hi to you guys. So I'm going to be right back. I'm going to go grab him, see if I can get him to come say hi before we end this live stream. And you guys can ask. So if you have any questions for Rich, who is the director of poker at Pops Poker in Richmond, Virginia, and you want to ask him anything about the opening or what it was like or anything like that, have those questions in here before I go. Have those questions in here, and when we come back, we'll both see them together, okay? So I'll be right back, and you guys can get your questions ready for Rich. Come on, Joe. So I've got Joe, one of the supervisors, coming, and Rich will be here as well in a second. And that's a good question, actually. I don't know if Joe's shy. Joe might not actually be coming, but they'll be here in one, or at least Rich will be here in 1 second, just to say hi to you guys. And I see the question that's here. He'll answer that too for sure. And yeah, now then I'm about to start my long drive from Richmond, Virginia down to Florida, which takes a while, but it'll be good. It'll be good. Ooh, I can actually answer the how are the downs question. Just in case somebody doesn't know, a down is a 30-minute stint that you spend at a tournament table. And what were the downs for the first week here for the tournament downs? So this is wait, can we see you? Let's see.
I don't know.
There we go. Yeah, there you are. So this is Rich. Rich, say hi.
Hey guys, how y'all doing?
He is the director of poker at Pops Poker in Richmond, Virginia. Joe, did you want to come over here? Come sit back here so you can get in the shot too. This is Joe. He's one of the floor managers as well, and I was working really closely with both of these gentlemen, plus a bunch of other people as well, over the last, what has it been, 5 days now? And
At least.
how are you guys feeling, by the way, after
Much better.
after the grind? that means you slept yesterday.
Yeah.
That's what that means, right?
I still haven't slept. We were up late.
Yeah, I was up until like 3:45 in the morning, downloading all my notes.
Later.
Oh,
It was
something like
beyond
that.
It was like 4:15 when you left. I think.
So I don't want to shortchange anybody here and make it seem like we don't work hard when we do.
Yeah, it was great. We're rolling now, so I mean things are doing awesome. We're just it's a lot of work and trying to get a poker room open. All these fine details, working through things, but so far so good.
I like it. I got a couple questions for you. The first question that they're asking, Two Doves Nation says, Rich, will you work with a couple, like a married couple? Will you hire two married dealers?
Yes, I will. I have, in fact. We have a married couple that is working with us. The wife is here now. The husband is coming in a couple of weeks. So yeah, that's doable.
Well, that's a great, simple answer. And they had said something about they're both dealers. If they were only here for 3 months or so, is that something that you'd be okay with, or you prefer it longer? Or if they said I'm only going to be here for 3 months, will you give me 3 months? Is that something you do? Because they talked about that, or it might have been someone else that talked about that. I can't remember.
I mean, it takes a little while to train people up on the system and our rules. We have a couple of differences that I don't think you're going to find in other poker rooms, and we also, have some policies and swiping in, all the different things that you would do in any kind of new room. So obviously, if we take that time, we want to maximize our efforts to have people stay as long as they can. But I could see, 3 months is certainly a reasonable amount of time. I can't necessarily expect a professional, especially traveling dealers, to stay much longer than that. If they have the talent, I would love to have them.
All right, so it's certainly not a no. And if they wanted to reach out to you, what would they do?
You can email me at rich@popspoker.com. It's probably the best way.
All right, so that sounds good. And
I would say text, but don't text me because I'm getting too many texts right now, and the emails are kind of like my to-do list. I kind of go through them and I can see them. So Rich, RICH at POPS poker.com.
Rich at popspoker.com.
Yes, sir.
That sounds good. And so I want to give you a second here, Joe. What are your biggest takeaways from this whole first 4 days opening and experiencing all this in here?
I think it was just the excitement of finally being able to say we were open and actually having people in here and playing the game, and which we were trying for so long to get to have happen.
Yeah, I was telling them actually earlier in this live stream that watching you Sunday night in here alone as a supervisor and the satisfaction that you clearly had running the room, it was really cool for me to watch you do that because you loved it.
I've been waiting for it for a long time. I've been doing this in Richmond. I've been pushing for this for 17 years.
17 years is a long time to want
trying
this,
to make this happen, and it just finally happened with the right people. And
that's really cool to hear. I like it. Let's see. So the next question that's on here is, so how are the downs? So it's tough, right? Someone asks, how much did the dealers make on the tournament? It's you're not really supposed to answer that question.
Right.
So the thing that I'll say is the downs here were comparable to what you would see at MGM or something like that nearby.
It worked out to be exactly what we expected.
Yeah. So the downs were good.
Almost to the penny.
Yeah. But that being said, we're not going to tell you the exact amount because it's a little sensitive info. Yeah. But the downs were standard for the industry. Let's see. Mark, have a safe drive to Florida. Hi, Rich and Joe. Hi, Rich and Joe. Thank you to get in. And I don't know exactly what that means, but I might have just read it wrong too. So let me ask you some other stuff here. What are you hiring right now?
So right now we're hiring dealers. We're still trying to get a foothold on whether or not we have enough or we don't. It's kind of hard to tell. We overstaffed a little bit the first week, or the first few days. We're actually trying to get that under control, and also we're not sure of the flow and how the flow of this room is going to totally work out. But we're expecting it to build very consistently. It already started to build. And we're working out new tournament structures, we're working out different promotions, etc. So we're confident this room is going to start to fill up pretty quickly, and our needs are going to change as time goes on. So at the moment, I'm not really looking for a whole lot other than, if I have some experienced dealers that come in and impress me with, I would be willing to hire some experienced dealers.
Well, the thing that I said to them earlier is, you just did 4 days, and you're going to be doing 4 days again this week. You're going to have to go to 7 days, and eventually you might expand your hours.
We're going to need more floors. So that's another position that we're going to.
So you do need at least one floor, and roughly how many dealers are you looking at? Like 5 to 10?
Maybe another 5.
Yeah, something like that. All right. Well, there's opportunities out here for sure. What games do you spread, and do you have bad beat promo?
So interesting. It's in Virginia. We operate under charitable gaming laws, which have very specific laws that were defined very clearly in the law that state Texas Hold'em poker only. So I don't have the ability to spread Omaha or Deuce to 7 or Stud 8 or anything like that. It can only be Texas Hold'em. So for starters, it's a non-starter to do anything other than those to that game. The other question was... Sorry.
Well, what do you have a bad beat promo?
Oh, bad beat promo.
So the first answer is you guys will spread any Texas Hold'em game that people want to play.
Yeah,
tournament,
any Texas Hold'em
cash game.
Yeah, tournaments, and what we call live action tournaments, which is essentially plays like cash, 1-2, 1-3, and 2-5, and we would like to get a 5-10 going here as well. So there's those games. The bad beat, we're not currently offering any kind of bad beat jackpot. We do have a high hand that we're paying out currently $200 every hour from 6 to midnight. And we're also offering a $500 royal bonus. So
if you get a royal flush,
use 2 cards.
$200 an hour for high hand, just as a very soft opening starting point.
Right, soft opening type of things. I can see ultimately putting in a bad beat jackpot, but not necessarily a progressive bad beat jackpot. It would be something a little bit smaller with a little smaller qualifier, so it doesn't necessarily go to massive numbers, but decent enough numbers that people would want to come in to play. We just have to tweak the promotion so that we don't take all of the money and necessarily goes to hundreds of thousands of dollars going to one person, and we're trying to spread the money around through multiple people to make it enticing for just the average person to come in.
Let's see. I think this question is for me. Christian says, have you been a dealer in Las Vegas before? Any stories about you in Las Vegas? I'm going to hold that question for next live stream. I'll answer that stuff next Tuesday. And I haven't dealt in Vegas. I have been to Vegas. I got trained by Vegas dealers. But that's the short answer there. Anything else you guys want to say or even ask me? So I want to say this real quick. 6 months-ish ago, maybe in February, I interviewed Rich here, and the title...
December.
Oh, it was December?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. The title of it was Opening a Poker Room from Scratch, and our intent when we did that was to do one before the room is open and to do another one after the room is open. So I'm sort of holding back right now because I got to give you a few months.
Yeah, I need a little cooking.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on right now, and my head is like... But it'll work out eventually, and I think we're going to, once we have that second interview, I'll have a lot more information as to how to, and I'll be able to quantify it and then put a cap on it, a nice little bow. Right now, we're not in that. Right now, it's a lot of things are in a state of flux. We're still adjusting the various tournaments that we're throwing. We're adjusting our staffing. There's promotions, marketing, all of that stuff. I mean, even signage in the room. The room has been built out absolutely beautifully. The tables look gorgeous and all of that. I think when people come in, it's poker, and you're going to feel good about poker here. But as far as like being able to survive a Marc Shumsker interview, I need.
You're not quite there yet. Yeah. In order to say like everything that went into it, you're gonna and also we want to capture the stories after you've had a chance to open and then grow and grow and grow and grow into a more stable thing, because that's part of what we want to talk about opening a poker room from scratch.
Right.
So you got to finish doing that in order for that conversation to really be impactful.
Right. I mean, hopefully the next interview will be titled "How to Open a Successful Poker Room from Scratch."
I like that very much. One other thing that I just wanted to mention to you guys, if you're thinking about Richmond, if you're thinking about visiting or working out here, one of the most difficult things to do in poker is to open a room and have good food and beverage. The owners of this place have been in business for 30-something years, you know, because it's a charitable organization, and there's all this stuff that they've done, bingo, restaurant, bar, as a result of that. And the food here is phenomenal because they're incredibly experienced at it going into this. And I just want to make sure that I give everybody props here for that, because like their menu, they put it together really quick, but these are unbelievably experienced people that can pump out enough food for 1,000 people if they need to.
Yeah, I mean it's amazing. The kitchen staff here is unreal, and they meet regularly and they adjust things regularly. I mean, even just today.
The quality was so good though.
Yeah, well that's Russ putting a lot of that together, and kudos to my man Russ. The menu he put it together in a matter of a couple of days and specifically adjusted it for poker players. And now we're largely sandwich based, where the kitchen was putting out a lot of fried foods. Things like wings, which were also incredible, and fries. But we've gotten away from that and gotten more to like panini style sandwiches, Reubens and a sailor sandwich, turkey club. And I'm sort of working through the menu myself, but that Reuben was honestly one of the best Reubens I've ever had, and it's right here. So I'm gonna have to do a little bit more to make sure I'm watching my weight. I can't eat a Reuben a day.
That's not just him. You can actually see those reviews on Poker Atlas too. Like
I was really impressed with it. Yeah, and they're constantly tweaking things, trying to make it better. Even just today, we had a poker meeting going on. We were discussing, what our strategy for the coming week, and they were trying to really pull me into a meeting because they really need it. They're really working hard to integrate food with poker, which I really think is just kind of unique. You don't see it where the kitchen staff really says, let me really just cater to what the poker needs are, the way that they're doing it here. And it's great. Whatever we talk about, if we say this is what our needs are, that's what they're catering to.
Well, and it's interesting for me watching this because I've never really got to be a part of an experienced restaurant being a part of this, right? And it's funny too because like over here they had no espresso machine. And it's just because they didn't know in a normal sports bar and restaurant that an espresso machine is something that you need for poker. So it's like we open and we figure it out, right? And these guys are incredibly solutions oriented, which is one reason why I really like working with them.
The espresso machine is going to come, but it's going to take a couple months. For starters, we're going to have a full on coffee bar. We just talked about it. They're going to do a coffee bar. It's going to be self serve. And we've got the perfect spot for it, that little spot. So it's going to be beautiful, and you're going to be able to come and make your own coffee. They used to have that up at one of the other casinos, and I really loved it myself as playing up there and making your own coffee. But then they got rid of it, and everybody complained. But the biggest problem was probably got a little bit messy. So I warned them. I said it's going to get messy, right? And you're going to have to clean it. It's not the players that clean it, but you're going to have to clean it. They're like, okay, no problem. And it was just done. So we settled that right there. I don't want to get rid of coffee. I want to have coffee.
Anything else that you guys want to just say before I end this? Because I do got to go, guys. I do got to go.
He has to go. I kept him up really late, but I did. We cracked a bottle of wine open. And then some cheese. We did. That made it a little bit easier, right? Yep. And we enjoyed the time.
He's referring to 4 a.m. last night. We were finishing going over my notes. I took notes. I had 11 pages worth of notes that after I condensed them that we went through yesterday for
13
pages.
13 pages.
Yeah, my bad. It's a lot of stuff.
Marc's a machine, and he is an amazing professional. I think that. One thing you don't really. This is what I wanted to say to your people is because I needed someone in the industry to reach out to and talk to. months and months, I mean, over a year ago. And I really sought out Marc for dealing training advice because I needed to cultivate an industry of dealers in Virginia that just didn't exist. We didn't have any dealers in Virginia looking for a job as a dealer in Virginia. And so Marc helped me cultivate that. What I didn't realize about Marc, and I think maybe a lot of the listeners may not realize, is that Marc is well beyond just dealer and dealer trainer. He's an absolute poker professional. And he knows virtually everything about the industry as well. And when he comes across something that he doesn't know, because nobody knows everything, he'll give you an opinion, and he'll also qualify it as, this is not my area of expertise, but these are my opinions of it, and this is where you might want to do a little bit more research. And if you want me to do the research, I'll do the research, but this is enough to get you started on that path. So instead of saying, well, here's my opinion and this is what it is, because he really has no ego when it comes to that at all, and really just excellent knowledge. When it comes to the poker room itself, he is the expert, and he really helped run this room absolutely professionally, and I have to give you credit for a large part, in large part, as to why this opening weekend went as smoothly as it did, considering, it's the first time we've ever opened a poker room like this. So I really want to thank you for your expertise, your time, your patience, your hard work. I mean, a very tremendous amount of effort.
That's very kind of you. We're going to play a little bit of the game and pass the credit back to you guys too. Your staff and people like Joe and the other supervisors and dealers here are also a pleasure to work with. I really mean that. And that all has been really cool. And just so you guys know, like, I am known on YouTube as True Poker Dealer, and that creates a certain view of what I probably am good at, which is dealing poker. But realistically, the majority of my time in this industry of poker has been as a supervisor and shift manager and running all of that stuff. And, in order to be True Poker Dealer, I can't just be a poker dealer. I have to be someone who trains dealers. Training dealers requires an entirely different skill set from dealing, and that is a similar skill set that I use in working in the industry. And I also train supervisors and all that stuff, which is stuff I've been doing for years. And I don't really talk about that much in this channel. I'm mostly talking to people that are learning to be poker dealers and all this stuff. But as Rich mentioned, I tell people when I see them in person, yeah, I'm a good poker dealer. Yeah, I'm a good poker dealer trainer. But the thing I'm best at is supervising and managing.
Yeah,
and
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he got to find that out in person.
Right. The other thing was he came and surprised us. He just kind of off the cuff.
You mind telling that story, actually?
Yeah, we're at this table, this particular table that everything is set up on. I don't know if you can see it, but it's just like one of these here. This is where we did most of our training of our dealers. We're getting some homegrowns, and we had some great, excellent people working with us here, including Ryan and some of the other guys that really did a phenomenal job training dealers. And we did a lot of the training right here. And our newest dealers were training for several weeks, and we need to audition them. So what I do is I set up a Zoom meeting, and I don't know if you can see these TVs up here, but I would, there's there you go, that TV right there. I would have Marc up on that TV screen, and what we
I'd be looking right down at this table, From I'd be in Florida or Texas or wherever I am, right?
Right, and I would pump him in through Zoom, and we'd have it up there, and he could interact with our players, and they could interact with him, and he would help us audition. We would set up the audition and facilitate, and he would sort of watch and monitor and sort of help dictate the action and the situation. Well, we set this audition up for several of our trainees. What was it, last Wednesday?
Tuesday.
It was Tuesday.
Tuesday last
I'm losing
week.
track of the days.
Before we open.
Right, I'm losing track of the days. So it was Tuesday, and it was 6 o'clock, and he's a very punctual guy. He is extraordinarily punctual. So it's about 5:58. I know that he's going to hop on Zoom, but he's not on Zoom yet for some reason. But I'm watching Zoom, and I look over, and there he is, standing right, like he's here in person. I thought he was in Dallas or Florida. I don't know where you are, quite frankly. It's sort of like, where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? He moves all over the place. Why is someone calling me?
Yeah, it's all
get a phone call.
That was a really fun moment for me.
But it was fun.
Yeah, just to surprise these guys. And I was driving down the East Coast, and I figured I'd just, show up. And then we ended up making it so that I was here to help out during opening. And appreciate you guys very much. Let's see, what else we got here? Thank you for telling that story, by the way.
It was great, though. What's so cool about it is that when you spend so much time talking to somebody and having never met them before in person, So we've been on the phone for probably 100 or plus hours, Zooming, phone, whatever. It's been a lot of time that we've spent together. And investing all this energy into making this poker room a reality, and then to actually meet someone for the first time in person, it was really a treat. And it's always,
Thank you. It was super fun to do that.
That was cool. It was a good surprise.
I just want to read these last couple comments, and let's see. It says, Tony says, can't wait to watch this second interview. So you got some excitement brewing for interview number 2. Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Nemanja says, brother, you are a top professional. Really enjoyed and learned from your content. All the best. Appreciate that very much. I've had a lot of fun out here, and it was really cool getting to meet all of you guys. Yeah,
man, it was awesome, dude.
Yeah, it was really
Thank
cool.
you.
There's some. By the way, the people in Richmond are really nice. Not just these guys. Everybody out here is really nice. It's one thing as poker dealers, it's really intimidating. Like some parts of the country, people aren't so nice when they play poker. The people in Virginia are really nice. I've been talking about how in Dallas the people are refreshingly nice too. Richmond is very similar to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is what it is.
It's a southern town essentially, but it's got some northern flavor to it. We're only 2 hours away from D.C. We're 2 hours away from the beach. We're centrally located up and down the East Coast. It's not a bad place to live. It's just big enough to where there's always something to do in Richmond, but it's small enough to where you just don't get lost in the shuffle. If you're in a large market like New York or San Francisco or Chicago, you could get lost in a city like that pretty easily. Here, you know where you're going. Nothing takes more than 15 or 20 minutes to get there. There's not a lot of traffic, really. It's a nice town to live in. And it's got some historic value, too. The Civil War capital was here. It's got some interesting things there. I've lived here my whole life, though, so I'm a little biased.
This is my first time ever being here, for the record, and appreciate you.
Yes,
It's
sir.
been really nice getting to know you guys in person.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, too.
We're going to get you a Reuben for the road.
Thank you.
Anyway, thank you all so much.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Take it easy, guys. I'm going to jump off, too, and start my drive down south.